strike fear in the hearts of ISIS? What does she think about the border policy?
But wait,
I think
this sounds like you're talking about Trump a year ago.
Trump was an international business tycoon who'd been dabbling in politics and policy for decades, Juan.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, national
policy. He'd been giving speeches about it.
Yeah.
He'd been writing about it.
Oh, yeah.
Oprah's more of a vessel, and even you would have to admit she's a vessel. Come on.
As I said earlier, I don't think she knows much about politics or foreign affairs, but I don't get how you can say Trump knew everything.
I think Trump knows a lot more about politics and policy than Oprah.
Well, okay.
But do you know what? Speaking of business, Weight Watchers shares jumped 13%, Kimberly, because she owns 10%.
Okay, well, good. I mean, I think Weight Watchers helps a lot of people.
It does.
Don't you?
I'm hoping it might help me. Just by mentioning them, I might get a free box of food.
Is that what you're trying to do?
Yes, if I mention Weight Watchers.
Sponsorship.
Yes, yes. They deliver the food, don't they?
What was that again?
Weight Watchers.
Got it.
Yes,
I read a whole thing today about how men are now becoming the spokesperson for companies like Weight Watchers.
Yeah.
And
including Rob Lowe for the Atkins diet.
And like Nutrisystem and things like that. I think it just like sitting up a little bit better might also help.
Wow, going after my posture. What did you
Dana knows I have great posture.
Unlike
Remember?
These other malcontents, you watched the whole thing.
Yes.
So what was it?
I responded positively in the affirmative to an email from the producer.
Yeah, how did you feel the tone overall from the Golden Globes? Do you think it was restrained and humble?
Yes, but I think everybody, like the women dressed in black, it seemed a little bit more like somber, a little bit more, you know, not as, I guess, like ebullient and people being really like raucous. It was just more kind of, I guess, dignified. I didn't mind it as much. I thought I wasn't going to like it, but it wasn't bad for me. Like, I liked the Oprah thing. I thought all the women looked really beautiful. I loved all the black dresses. At first, I thought it was going to be some kind of like aggressive, you know, movement, but it wasn't. It was just dignified. So I think it was fine. I didn't have a problem with it. And it was entertained. I kept it on.
The weird thing, too, is that they invited Tanya Harding there, and because there was that they made a movie about her. She was there, and they kind of portrayed her as a feminist icon. But allegedly, didn't she plan to attack? Wasn't she part of the attack?
Yeah, in fact,
Nancy Kerrigan was a victim.
Yeah, Nancy Kerrigan was kneecapped by someone that was trying to help her out. That's crazy.
She admitted she knew about it.
I think she's actually like a reluctant accomplice.
Yeah.
You know what strikes me though is that the culture the culture is ahead of the politics in America all of a sudden. Everything is about the culture. Everything is about the Golden Globes, Oprah. You don't need to really know anything to run for office. I'm like, what? The world has gone crazy.
Or the world has just gotten more awesome. You know, I'm going to play a sound on tape of the host, Seth Meyers, who nobody remembers because of Oprah. This is what you know how we always talk about Hollywood or a bunch of elites? He addresses that criticism.
This looks like a room of privileged Hollywood elite, and that's fair. But everyone in this room knows that Hollywood is so much more than that. When you're on a film set, you meet hairdressers and camera people and script supervisors. Most of the jobs on film sets are jobs for people who work long, hard hours. They are American dream jobs. Those people aren't there thanks to their rich dad, except for that one PA. People in this room worked really hard to get here, but it's clearer now than ever before that the women had to work even harder.
So, Jesse, what he's doing is he's taking the little people.
Yes.
The little people to make it so that the elites don't look so bad. Like, look, we have hairstylists, and we have makeup, and we have caterers.
My butler, and my driver.
My footman.
Water's World.
That's right. I know. Who was the woman, I think it was on The View or one of those shows? She goes, you know, we need open borders because someone's got to clean the bathrooms. Yeah. That's what it comes off as. And then, so NBC comes out and then promotes this whole presidency of Oprah. Yeah. But because she did a Me Too speech, but then NBC also covered up for Matt Lauer and then spiked the Weinstein exclusive. So I don't really know what NBC wants. I mean, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah, and you know, Dana, I forgot about that NBC actually tweeted that Oprah was going to be the next president. Right, yeah. Then they pulled the tweet.
A third
party. This is what I think was interesting. So what NBC said is that they had outsourced Twitter that night to a third party who had tweeted that, so that's why they deleted it. But I thought, I know how Twitter works. It's not that hard, and you do not have to hire a third party to do it.
No. Just have a party.
Just do a party.
Yeah, just
like
have
you
a-
do.
You had one last night.
Yes, I had. My tweets were remarkably mild, I believe.
You didn't get
And
anything from media
well-received.
relations?
No, I got, they were well received.
Well received.
But they were
Across the board.
across the board were well received. All right, that's enough. I don't think we'll be speaking about the Golden Globes, at least for another year.
You'll be talking about Oprah, though.
Yeah, you know it. All right, we turn to Oprah's 2020 opponent ahead, President Trump's staunch defense of his mental fitness. That's next.
I love it.
Somebody called a psychiatrist. There was a crazy panic over the weekend after the president's critics poured through fire and fury. Oh, wait, they're all psychiatrists now.
We could look back a year from now and say the warning signs were there and we did not do enough.
We're in a real constitutional crisis. The leadership of the country in Congress, privately and in public, openly question the fitness and stability of the President of the United States.
When you hear him put out that tweet, stable genius, it's kind of like Richard Nixon, I'm not a crook.
Even a Democrat who supported Hillary Clinton suggests everybody settle down.
Yep.
It's very dangerous. You know, there's only one thing worse than trying to criminalize political differences, and that's trying to psychiatrize them. These psychiatrists now who are trying to diagnose without ever having met the man, that's what they did in Russia. I represented dissidents who they locked up in mental hospitals. That's what they did in China. That's what they did in apartheid South Africa. How dare liberals, people on the left, try to undo democracy by accusing a president of being mentally ill without any basis?
President Trump didn't have to, but he did address the mental health concerns from his critics in a tweet calling himself a, quote, very stable genius, and then appeared before cameras at Camp David.
I went to the best colleges, or college. I went to I had a situation where I was a very excellent student, came out, made billions and billions of dollars, became one of the top business people, went to television, and for 10 years was a tremendous success, as you probably have heard. Ran for president one time and won. And then I hear this guy that doesn't know me at all.
This is the same thing they do with Reagan and they did with Bush, that all Republican presidents are dumb and crazy. And now they're doing it with
or one
President
or the
Trump.
Other. This went way over the line to me. The psychiatrists all getting together and having like a secret cabal to figure out, you know, first I thought he didn't really want to run, and then that he didn't really want to win, and that he didn't really want to govern. And then today, his deputy press secretary announces that he is for sure running again in 2020. And so I think this is a big, waste of time by the Democrats, because they're ceding all of the policy ground to Republicans as they tick off their agenda one by one. And the economy is fully recovered, and President Trump pushing down the gas pedal on that with the tax cuts. And so you're left with the Democrats trying to hang their hat on their hopes on some sort of mental instability claim, which is really unfortunate. One, I think is preposterous, but also I would say this. I think it's really unfortunate for this country, who has talked about mental health a lot in the last several years, and how we need to do more to address it, and they're basically making a mockery of it. And there are a lot of people out there that are dealing with mental health issues, or whose children are, or whose family members are, and this is super irresponsible.
Do you agree with Dana's point that they've failed to defeat President Trump in the arena of ideas, so they're throwing this smear at him?
This is, okay, calling him Hitler, that didn't work.
Nope.
The Russia thing is stalling. So this is like in their tool shed. This is now the chainsaw, because all the rifles are empty. So they're got to come out with this. None of the people calling him crazy could have pulled off what he did. And the thing is, if you are, let's say you're clinically mentally ill, you're consistently clinically mentally ill. You can't go out and do a rally and then a speech and then all of a sudden go back privately and dissolve into some kind of, I don't know, gibbering like mess. That's not how it works. That's what they're suggesting. They're suggesting that when you see him, he's fine, but then behind closed doors, he just loses it. I have questions about the psychiatrist. I've looked up on this stuff. There's some interesting things about her that I think warrant further explanation. But in defense of people using this, and I think Juan might agree with me on this, this is the mirror image of the birth certificate.
Ooh.
The 25th Amendment argument and the birth certificate argument are both identically the same in terms of delegitimizing the person. So everything has a mirror here. When we're saying this is insane, a lot of people were saying the same thing about the birth certificate.
Right.
Even though there might be a little bit more legitimacy to the birth certificate because we didn't have the real thing, but I think they're kind of similar. I will say this, Donald Trump, you can say that he's odd. People who do extraordinary things are often odd, but they're not crazy. They might be a little bit off, you know, a little nutty, Kimberly.
Greg.
Yes.
Man in the mirror.
Yeah.
Well,
I love it.
That's a great point.
let's let Juan respond because is this an attempt to delegitimize the president?
No, what struck me was that, you know, largely this comes out of the Michael Wolff book, right? And who is Wolff quoting? He's quoting Republicans. I mean, you don't have to go
on the record.
Yeah, I mean, look.
Which
Rand
on the record?
Rand Paul before that said this guy is a delusional narcissist. I think Lindsey Graham, who this weekend came out and said everything's fine, Lindsey Graham said he's a kook. A kook, right? Bob Corker, the Republican senator, has said basically this is adult daycare. This man has never demonstrated either the capacity to be president or the stability necessary.
But they're talking about a personality. They're judging a personality.
That's right.
They're not talking about the actual mental state.
No.
That's way different.
No. I think this is the same, Greg. I think they're talking about the guy they deal with that they think is a little off and that they're reluctant to say it and they don't attack him, but they apparently said this stuff to Wolff, if he's to be believed.
Bob
and
Corker
then once Wolff puts it out there, then everybody says, wait a second. Is this the king has no clothes and nobody's willing to say it, especially among Republicans?
But the psychiatrists getting together for their cabal was separate and apart.
That's a separate apart.
That's what's driving
That's why no. What drives it, I think, is the book and all the revelations that Republicans are saying these things about Trump.
Juan, and I'll pose this to Kimberly. You know what I think is crazy? When people say that global warming is a greater threat than ISIS. That, I think, is mentally insane.
Wow.
Yeah, well, that's definitely disturbed. But, you know, I like what Alan Dershowitz has to say. Politically oppose someone. Don't sit there and try to cast aspersions about their mental state or faculties or ability to serve. I mean, okay, if he's crazy, then crazy is good. Sign me up for more because he's had tremendous amount of accomplishments. Everybody pretty much with a sane mind has had to admit that in terms of what he's been able to achieve and get done in a very quick period of time. But this is something that disturbs people. They find it mentally disturbing that he's done as well as he has. So they're trying to now go back on him and cast these types of ideas on people to try to make it more mainstream and acceptable. This is a guy who doesn't have his faculties or lacks intelligence. Really? So how did he get into the White House?
Yeah, he defeated a dynasty.
I mean, to be honest, you know, and 16 very qualified, you know, candidates that ran. He did all the debates. He campaigned out there. He made a tremendous amount of money and jobs and created in terms of the economy with American businesses. So was this all just, you know, dumb luck?
I think people are just sick of all this winning, Kimberly.
That's what it is.
That's what it is.
I'm sure.
All right, ahead, Steve Bannon attempts to make amends after turning on the president. But did he close the book for good on his own political career? Up next.
They say it's never too late to say sorry, but in Steve Bannon's case, it may be. The former chief White House strategist appears to have done himself in with the president over disparaging remarks that turned up in the new book, Fire and Fury. He's now attempting to backtrack, but will it get him back in the good graces of the man who's dubbed him Sloppy Steve? In a statement, a regretful Bannon says Donald Trump Jr. is both a patriot and a good man. My support is also unwavering for the president and his agenda. My comments were aimed at Paul Manafort. He should have known the Russians are duplicitous, cunning, and not our friends. I regret that my delay in responding to the inaccurate reporting regarding Don Jr. has diverted attention from the president's historical accomplishments in the first years of his presidency. Okay. Is sorry good enough?
You know what it reminds me? Bannon is like your best friend telling you a drunken, disgusting story and then notices that your wife's in the other room and heard everything. So that's the script I'm writing for the movie that I want to make. It never really happened. It's too late. He's like, he wanted to burn the world down, and now he has no matches and he has no lighter fluid. He has only one path, Dancing with the Stars.
Oh, no!
And Hillary as his partner. TV mind right here.
You can't do that. You have to have a professional as your partner.
Oh, but think of this.
But
Just
nice
think how
concept.
beautiful
They could have
Think how beautiful.
it would be.
I just feel. All right, shake it off, shake it off. Okay, Dana, what do you make of this? Do you like, first of all, in terms of the communications, do you like the message? And was it too little, too late?
It doesn't really matter what I think. I would just say that hours after the book had hit the ground, and this guy he's obviously very smart. He knows communications pretty well, and he waited and waited because I think he actually did say it. And now he's trying to figure out a way to sort of backtrack. One thing he didn't backtrack was the comments that he made about Mueller's investigation actually zeroing in on money laundering and Jared Kushner. That wasn't a part of the statement that he released on Sunday. And then the other thing is, I noticed in chapter 7 of the book, there's this little detail, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with Bannon, but it is when Michael Flynn does an interview with Karen DeYoung of the Washington Post. It's on background, and she asks him, did you have contact with the Russians in which you discussed sanctions? And he says no, and he denies it twice. She calls back to the communications director, Michael Anton, and said, hey, Michael Flynn, he just denied this twice. It was on background, but is it cool if we put that on the record since he denies it?
Right.
And Anton says, yeah, that's cool. Fine, no problem. Then he calls Michael Flynn and says, hey, by the way, I just want to let you know, I told them that they could use that on the record. Is that okay? And he gets actually, and now they can't pull it back. And it was a very interesting detail in the book that I thought, that's the moment that it all starts to unravel.
That starts to unravel. Okay, and also notice, Jesse, that he didn't say I'm sorry or regrets or anything about Jared or Ivanka or anything like that.
It was mostly about Don Jr., I think, was the apology,
Right.
non-apology. But the book itself was designed kind of as a hand grenade to throw inside the Trump White House, but the only person it really killed was Bannon. I think Trump survives this. Obviously, this guy came in as a wolf in sheep's clothing. He kind of punked his people in order to get in there, and then he tried to take down the White House. That was the guy's motivation, to take down Trump and actually lead to impeachment. Correct. And so how can you trust anything he says? The main point of the book was that Trump didn't want to win. So then, if he didn't want to win, why did he collude with the Russians to win? The whole thing doesn't make sense, especially saying that all of the Trump family thought their father was a loser and insane and not a good guy. It's so erroneous. And so CNN comes out, your hall monitor friend, and says the book is riddled with inaccuracies, sloppy and shoddy reporting, but it rings true.
And that was their standard.
Rings true is the standard at CNN? I mean, that's fake news. That's why they get into so much trouble and have to fire people. If a conservative author kind of finagled his way into the Obama White House and wrote an error-filled book that took down or attempted to take down Obama, do you think that he'd be on every single show on TV and people would be giving him the benefit of the doubt and the media would say, oh, well, it rings true? No, he wouldn't be invited anywhere.
Oh, yeah?
His book would probably be boycotted and he'd be totally trashed in the media.
Oh, gee, we've never seen anything like that with the Clintons. Oh, gee, what was the name of that book? That went
Which one? The Dick Morris book?
No. Peter Schweitzer's book?
But Peter Schweitzer,
I don't think he got any inside access.
It's
Well, that's the point.
no.
That's the
corollary is Ed Klein.
Well-sourced
Ed Klein's
reporting.
books, right?
It's the
Ed
corollary,
Klein's
yeah.
book. All right.
Not
But the point here, to your rebuttal, which I thought was pretty good, but I must say, who invited Wolf in?
I agree. They invited a wolf in with sheep's
Okay,
clothing.
but I'm saying they invited him in.
Yeah, big
They thought
self-inflicted error.
Right, big time.
Big time.
But that's their actions. They brought him in. And similarly, does anybody really think Bannon was not part of Trump? Trump didn't love Bannon. Bannon loved Trump. They served each other's purposes.
They had a nice relationship
Okay,
for a while.
so I'm saying this guy comes out and he says what he says. He does not retract it. And Kimberly, I think you're right. He didn't apologize. He didn't say, I'm sorry. He didn't say anything like that. So to my
I think it just would have been better if he had come out right away, like Dana said, and said something that.
Yeah,
was
but he didn't
heartfelt.
do that because apparently
well, right. That's why
what he
people are having
said.
a hard time.
So
It's not an apology.
in a sense,
and the president
that
rejected
confirms
it.
what Wolf wrote, right? So all of a sudden we're saying, So apparently Wolf did some interviews here, and apparently people aren't running away from it.
I'll say one thing, Steve Bannon is very quotable.
You
He's
got
done
it.
some pretty funny stuff.
He
sure
really
has.
has. But I think the bigger story here is that now that Bannon, the question is, is Bannon out at Breitbart? And that's still up in the air. Secondly, what about Rebecca Mercer and her dad? Because they're the big conservative money people who've been backing Bannon all along.
But that broke up a while ago.
No, but they said last week that they're done now supporting Bannon. But what does that mean for Breitbart, for Bannon? And what does it mean for Mitch McConnell? Because all of a sudden, it looks like all the Senate incumbents that Bannon planned to attack won't be attacked.
But I think more importantly that President Trump himself said at Camp David that he does not plan to
that's why the
support
question
any
came up.
insurgents. And if he's going to be campaigning hard, it will be for the incumbents. So I do think Mitch McConnell
Wolf
won.
helped Trump.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I think.
The book has been widely criticized because of so many inaccuracies. So many people saying that they didn't say this didn't happen that way. I mean, many
It's
people
free on
present for
WikiLeaks.
that. And I don't know what was going on with this guy. No distractions for the president as he continues to focus on a thriving economy and bringing jobs back to America. President Trump in Nashville, that's next.
Stay away from me, American woman. Mama, let me be. Trailer park truck stop, faded little map dots, New York to LA. We were teenagers.
A short while ago, President Trump laid out his plan to help rural America. Today in the great state of Tennessee, he's the first president in a quarter century to address the American Farm Bureau Federation's annual convention. Here were some of the highlights.
We have been working every day to deliver for America's farmers, just as they work every single day to deliver for us. The American dream is roaring back to life, and we have just signed into law the most significant tax cuts and reforms in American history. We're also putting an end to the regulatory assault on your way of life. We are witnessing a new era of patriotism, prosperity, and pride. And at the forefront of this exciting new chapter is the great American farmer. Farm country is God's country. So true.
So, Juan, one of the things the president did at the very end is he signed an executive order authorizing more broadband connectivity issues, so like putting towers around so that people living in rural America could have the same type of access that everybody else does. So I thought that was a pretty positive thing. What about you?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't know, with net neutrality, they might have to pay a little more, but I think it's a great thing. In fact, I think a lot of the cable companies have been very aggressive about saying that is something that we can do, we should do. And so I think the support from the president is a big aid for that, and it's a big boon to rural America, which has been going through some very difficult economic times. Now, where the president and the farmers are on different pages when it comes to trade, Dana, because on issues like NAFTA and especially import-export, American farmers need that global marketplace. So he didn't say that he was going to change that.
Liz Cheney was on the Daily Briefing today, Kimberly, and she said that the agricultural community had really good meetings with the White House and that she thinks that their concerns about NAFTA have actually been addressed.
Yeah, this is what I thought was fascinating because, and persuasive. She seemed to have the information about it to say that this is something that's been discussed and now that they feel a sense of confidence. And I think this really goes to the sense that President Trump being very hands-on to try to address people's concerns, really understanding jobs and promising to connect with the working class men and women, including, yes, farmers, that farmers haven't been left behind, just like coal miners haven't been left behind. So what are your particular interests and concerns of your core group, right? So as it relates to them, then they're able to meet, address those issues, and then move forward. I think it's effective governing is what it is, and it's what's been needed because no two groups kind of are the same. They have different needs, different concerns, and so you have to be sensitive to those and really actually listen to them, and he did that when he was campaigning, and now he's doing it while he's in the Oval.
One of the things he led with, Greg, was something I know that you talk about often, and that is basically doing what the tax reform bill did on death taxes so that people with family farms can try to keep it in the family more and not be penalized.
Yeah, he made a funny joke out of it. What did he say? He goes, this isn't really going to help you.
But your children.
Yeah, because they'll be dead. But no, this is an important thing. Why you can't tax something that's already been taxed. That's actually immoral. It's wrong. It's theft. But I think I can speak for everybody that watches MSNBC and CNN. What's rural?
What's a farm?
What's a farm? What's Heartland? What is that?
What?
He had a very receptive crowd, Jesse.
It's amazing that a billionaire real estate developer
From New
from
York.
Queens can bond so much with these farmers, and he has. And it's amazing the rural support that the president has had. And these are critical districts in Ohio, in Wisconsin, in Iowa, and he's going to need these voters, and his ratings are slipping just marginally, but he comes out and he tends to these voters, not necessarily with any tools, but he talks about cutting the estate tax. He's selling his tax reduction plan. He's talking about broadband, and he's talking about slashing these regulations. He brought up the famous stream regulation, where if a little trickle of a stream runs through your property, all of a sudden the feds can regulate it.
You know what it's called?
What's it called?
WOTUS.
WOTUS.
Waters of the United States.
Right.
Like, this is the bill named after you.
There you go.
If you were president, you would be WOTUS.
That will
There
never
you go.
happen.
Let me hear that on any other show. All
There
right,
it
some
is.
of you have told
Shaking
us
in
you
your
watch
chair,
The Five
Juan.
while running on a treadmill, but you won't be able to anymore if you work out at one of a national gym.